I want to welcome you all to the first webinar that we are having about the Urban Fellows program at IIHS. So this is just meant to be an introduction to the program. I will answer all the questions that you have. You can ask me about how the program is structured, who can apply, any questions that you have about the curriculum, structure, eligibility, any of that stuff. Just to sort of start us off, I think I will give you, I'll speak for about 10 minutes and I'll give you a little bit of a background into the program. And then I will open it up to all of you. You can send in questions and I will read the questions out and I will answer them. Right? If at any point in time you can't hear what I'm saying, please just send a message so that we can, correct that. We can take a look at what's going on. So, as many of you probably already know, the Urban Fellows program has been sort of the flagship teaching program at IIHS, and we have been running it now for 4 batches. The 4th batch is going to now graduate in May. And we have opened up the applications for the 5th batch to join. And the Urban Fellows program is a 10-month interdisciplinary fellowship. It is a residential program. It's a full-time program. So if you become part of the fellowship, you have to be in Bangalore. We take care of the accommodation. You have to attend classes. There is a big component of that. There are some component where you will go onto the field and you will do practica-based projects. There are multiple things like skill labs. We take you for exposure visits to other cities. You will work on live projects, site-based practica projects, and then you will end the 10-month, the last 2 months, by interning at an organization that works on urban issues. It may be from the practice side. It may also be from the research side. People have gone on to doing different things, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So, I mean, broadly, so the 10-month has got 8 months where you will spend mostly in class and the field visit that we make you do. And the last 2 months is in the internship. So, just to kind of take a step back and tell you a little bit about like how we came up with this Urban Fellows program. So this comes out of, IIHS is an urban institute. We do a lot of research and a lot of practice on various kinds of urban issues. We work with the government, we advise the government, we work with private sector on a range of things from sort of land, housing, climate change issues, livelihood issues, gender, health, a wide spectrum of things. These problems are complex. A lot of the things that we are sort of working with has made us aware of the fact that, to work on urban issues in a place like India, you need a very interdisciplinary sort of an approach. And we want people, sort of to learn from the context of the practice that is happening, that is located here, and, sort of learn from what's actually going on, the real life kind of problems. And so taking all of this in mind, we really sort of put a lot of time into designing a curriculum which would reflect a set of, theoretical, conceptual conversations, as well as, a field-based learning, which will be able to respond to the problems that Indian cities are actually facing here and now. And it's not going to take, a lot of models that's coming from elsewhere, or, sort of teach an abstract. And our curriculum is also sort of not looking at, that to make our cities work well, we believe that you need a whole set of different kinds of urban practices, right? So people from very different disciplinary backgrounds, from sociology, from economics, from law, from planning, architecture, media, arts, environmental sciences, a whole range of people like that are currently involved in different ways in making our cities work. And this fellowship takes that idea of, a broad-based urban practice, and we prepare people to kind of, get to understand the urban in terms of its complexity, what problems are going on, get to know more about issues, develop a common vocabulary around that, learn from your classmates, right? How does an economist speak to a planner? How does a planner speak to a lawyer? These are the kinds of challenges that the classroom in a UFP will make it, makes it very, very real. And these are real life skills, because again, when you sort of step out from the classroom, any of these kinds of issues, when you're doing a practice project, you're consulting, or you're doing a research project, you will have to actually speak to people who come from different disciplinary backgrounds, right? So the curriculum sort of takes this kind of an interdisciplinary approach. We're not trying to make an economist into a planner, or a planner into, someone who's going to make films, but it is designed to make you comfortable to have those conversations with people who come from different disciplinary backgrounds, learn how they can sort of add to the problem, learn a whole range of methods and skills that draw from different disciplines, and then sort of work as a group to sort of get at the various aspects that are required when the problem is complex, right? And so we spend a lot of time designing a curriculum that can address it this way. And that's one of the reasons that, if you're at all interested in sort of integrating the urban into your practice later into your life, or into your research later into your life, this is a great place to kind of get a foothold and develop the skills and gain the methods that will allow you to do that into the future, right? We do a lot of there's a lot of linkages to the real sort of real life projects and research that is happening at IIHS. There's a lot of conversation that goes back and forth between the classroom teaching and the work that we're actually doing on the ground with different government agencies, private sector agencies, NGOs, bilateral agencies, etc. And you gain, like, the program is structured in a way that you actually gain work experience and research experience through the process, not only through the practica and the real life projects, but also the 2 months of internships, which we basically handhold our fellows through. So we make sure that you're placed into an internship in an organization that aligns well with what you want to do after you finish the program, right? And that is kind of the step into the placement process. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The faculty also comes from, like, just as I said, that there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning. Your classmates are going to come from different disciplines. You can learn a lot from them. Even the kind of, debates that you have, the differences of opinion that you have with each other is going to actually teach you real life skills about how to kind of work together in interdisciplinary teams. Similarly, the faculty that will be teaching all come from, sort of multiple disciplines. Most people have like at least 2 or 3 disciplinary, degrees that they have done. Most people have practiced for a while and have taught for a while. Most people continue to do practice. So there is a lot of like sort of diversity in terms of what people have done, the experience that people bring into the classroom, the research that people are already involved with, and you get to sort of, get the benefit of that when you're sitting in the classroom as well. So that's kind of about the program a little bit. If you have questions about any particular aspect that is spoken about, please put that in your questions. In terms of I'll move on to who can apply for this program, right? So like I said, we're looking for people with very different disciplinary backgrounds. So the one limitation that we have is that you have to be under the age of 30 when you apply for the program. The program is only open to this thing, and you can look at the website, which gives the detail of the cutoff date before which you have to be under the age of 30. Apart from that, people with an undergraduate degree in any discipline, whether that's social sciences, arts, sciences, planning, architecture, law, media, engineering, the arts, any of them. So take a look. We've had very, we take people with very different disciplinary backgrounds. The only thing we ask for is that whatever your disciplinary background, you have to be interested in the urban in some way in terms of your future research and practice, right? So you can have an undergraduate degree in any of these disciplines. You can have a master's degree in any of these disciplines. You can have a master's degree with a few years of experience as well, working with any of these disciplinary backgrounds. But the only, like I said, the only cut off this thing is that you have to be under the age of 30. Now, we are also open to people who have, a formal education degree up to 10+2, but have worked extensively on the field after that and have gained real life knowledge, maybe worked in their community, been involved with education programs or gender related issues, or a whole set of things. But if you have a sizable number of years of experience after 10+2, and for whatever reason you were not able to pursue formal education beyond 10+2, we are also open to looking at those applications and look at them on a case-to-case basis as well. The admission process is a two-stage process. At the first stage, you would have seen the admission link on our website, as well as like all the social media posts, etc., that we are putting out. The link is now live, so you can go ahead and apply. That is the written part of the application process. Now, the written part is basically includes 3 to 4 essay type questions. Please pay attention to these essay type questions. It is meant to understand your background, your experience, and most importantly, how you think, how you analyze what is going on with our urban areas these days, right? So we look for people who are extremely interested in taking this forward, who have either worked on this on a voluntary basis or in terms of actual work experience, have been involved at a community level, etc., but whatever, like, your interest in the urban should really come out, and those essays tell us the kind of how you think, how you analyze, what do you want to do, how do you take it forward, and we sort of curate the class around that, right? So many times in the past, people have left the essay questions with a single line, right, or a single word, or a very short paragraph. That doesn't give us enough to consider your application properly. So I would highly recommend, take your time with the essays, make it as genuine as possible. We have over the years also started doing plagiarism checks, because we are beginning to also realize that people look at newspaper articles and just cut and paste from there, and it's very easy to actually pick that out. So please don't do that. We're not looking for fancy English or large words, or any kind of like very complex kind of sentence structures, etc. It's not about that. It's about the place from where you are writing, right? So if you are writing with genuineness, but with not that great like a sophisticated kind of a language, you're more likely to get in than if you have some very sophisticated cut and paste from some thing that is not your own. So that's like, but I mean, again, I will repeat, please pay attention to the essays. Make that, front end your writing with that. You can write your essays in other languages. So if you're not comfortable with English, please write it in Hindi. Please write it in whatever language you're comfortable with. We have people here with different language skills, and we are going to look at your application, but write it well. right? After the first stage of the process is complete, we go into the interview stage. We shortlist a certain number of people from after reading all the essays, and then we will call in a small subset of people for interviews. Typically across the years, it's about 150 people that we interview. It changes from year to year, but that's approximately the number of people that we will interview. And then you will have, you know, sort of a 10 to 20-minute conversation with a set of faculty, and that's the second stage of the admission process, and we select the class on the basis of that. So the program this year has there is a fee associated with it. It's basically 1.75 lakhs, all inclusive. This includes, like, for example, at one end, you know, GST and tax and stuff like that as well. It also includes accommodation. So housing is free. It includes your tuition fees. It includes all the expenses when you, for example, go on exposure trips. Any expenses that you will incur during the program in terms of making presentations or any you know, stationery that you need, all of that is going to be covered within it. We understand that this amount is may be a barrier to certain people to apply to the program. So we have a very generous scholarship program also associated with it. So because we want a very diverse kind of a classroom. So people who come from, you know, difficult family backgrounds, difficult, you know, for listening reasons, we have if you have kind of been shortlisted, if you make it to, if you're selected, then basically we follow the needs blind kind of an approach. That is, financial difficulties should not hold you back from attending the program. So if you are selected, we will work with you and support you through scholarships to make sure that you can attend. So please apply. Don't let any kind of a financial consideration hold you back from the application process by looking at that fee structure. The fee is there for, because there are also a lot of people who apply and this thing for whom the fee is, you know, sort of it's workable, because people end up with this program in very good job placement opportunities as well. And so, you know, there is a reason why, you know, we're sort of asking for the fee. But there is also, you know, we understand that a lot of people, you know, it may become a barrier for them. For that, we have a very, very robust scholarship program. So please, again, like, don't let the fee hold you back from applying. Please apply. Okay, so I mean, I'll just end with one line just to kind of give you a sense, because I sort of talked about the placements really quickly. There are people who have ended up going to public sector jobs, private sector jobs, non-governmental organizations, private sector consultancies, research organizations, think tanks. Some of them have gone ahead to do, you know, masters in various sort of very well-known programs. So there is a very wide range. There are, you know, there's a very sort of a very wide range of places that are now part of, you know, sort of the, not to say portfolio, but like just the group of organizations that are interested in UFP graduates, right? And they come back to us year after year. We sort of place people there firstly for internships, and in many of these places, like, you know, at least a third of those places, those internships convert into jobs. If they don't convert into jobs, there's also another set of organizations that people apply for, and people, I mean, so far everybody, you know, it has been a nearly sort of 100% thing that people have gone on to doing really nice jobs in different places. So I think we have a few questions here. So I'm going to just read the questions and start answering them. The first one is, I'm a dropout from bachelor's. Do I have a chance? Yes, please apply. If the thing is that, like I said, that 10+2 is our minimum eligibility, like on paper. But if it is a 10+2, then it has to be supported well with a lot of like very sort of extensive and robust kind of work experience. So if you have been engaged after with sort of different kinds of work, and it's been interesting kind of work, please do send in your application. We will consider it. Next question is that I'm an architect and currently working as a research assistant at the School of Environment and Architecture. Can you elaborate a little about the selection process in the application for the fellowship? Like, what are you looking at in each application? Things which should be highlighted in order to make the application strong. So, as I said a little while ago, the written application is the first stage, and the written application will have about 3 to 4 essays that are associated with it. You of course have to fill in the other things that are there in the applications as well, which looks at your educational background and what all you've studied and when you've studied them and your work experience on all of that especially. So those are important, those need to be there. But additionally, what we actually focus a lot of our attention on are the essays. And so the essays include, for example, a personal statement, why you care about the urban, what is your particular interest in it. So those are the things that we want to know about, right? We look for engagement, we look for how well do you analyze a problem, we look for how connected is, have you brought your sort of practice and work and voluntary experience, etc., into the ways you think about the urban. Do you read newspapers? Do you read fiction? Do you read, non-fiction? Like, are you sort of somebody who cares enough to kind of follow what's been going on about issues? How do you think about them? Those are actually, I mean, it's kind of hard to put them into a quantitative matrix, but these are the kinds of things that we look for. We look for people who are sort of genuinely interested, have are independent in their thought process, have a lot of experience, and therefore can speak, not experience necessarily in a formal sort of a way, but through your reading, through your engagement, through your research, all of that sort of thing as well. Why do you care about certain things? How much have you spent time finding out more about it? How do you frame what you're talking about? So those are the kind of things that we're looking for, and that takes you to the next stage. If those essays are sort of written well, then you make it to the interview stage. Okay, so the next question is, I'm from Spain. Is it open for application by Europeans? I am really sort of sorry to say right now we are not open to people who don't have an Indian passport or not an OCI, or there are certain countries like Nepal, etc., which allow their students to study in India without a visa. So it's actually, the program right now is only open to them. So I'm really sorry, but hopefully going forward. The next question is, can you repeat the fee amount? The audio wasn't rightly heard. So the fee is 1.75 lakhs for the entire program, and this is all inclusive. So GST is included, the accommodation is included, the tuition is included, everything is within that. That's the only thing that you pay for the entire 10-month thing. It can be paid at once, it can be paid in 2 installments. We are also looking at a lot of sort of very, very low rate sort of loans that can be made available to people. And finally, like I said, for people who come, for whom this is a financial barrier, we have a very robust scholarship program, right? But the fee this year is 1.75 lakhs for the entire program, which is inclusive of everything, all your costs, including exposure trips, stationery, presentation, all of that isn't there. The next question is, may I know about the recent projects? So Sai, I would sort of, I would point you towards, the Urban Fellows program has a website. So if you go into that website, you will see under the first tab called the Fellowship, there is a tab called Applied Practica and Projects, right? And there is a long list there of all the recent practica, all the projects that have been done recently by the students. We are also going to have one webinar which is focusing entirely on the practica and projects, right? Like how they are done, what topics, how do you get to select, sizes of groups. So we're going to go into that. On what is the date? 2nd April. Sorry. So that webinar is scheduled on 2nd April between 5 to 6 p.m. So please do tune into that. But just to kind of, from the website itself, I'm sort of telling you this thing that, there was one project was about looking at the caste dimensions of peri-urban village transformations in Bangalore. There was one on inclusive cities, developing a course around inclusive cities. There was a project called Hungry Cities, which was looking at the food systems in urban areas. There was one about land-based financing and looking at large infrastructure projects like the Bangalore Airport and the Metro project, etc. There was one on rental housing arrangements and domestic workers. There was one on mapping the urban missions to the SDGs. There's a set of projects on a whole set of gig economy work that's going on, tempos, trucks, and the technology apps that are being used right now. A set of students worked on the IIHS podcast. So there is a whole set of different things you can do, from research to practice, and a whole set of things from like podcasts and media-based projects to research-based projects, which are focusing on lots of different kinds of thematics. So there's a very wide range of projects that are typically there. The next question is, can agriculture graduates apply? I'm in the final year right now, so I can apply this year. So, in the batch that is now going to graduate in May 2020, we actually have a person who came from an agricultural degree. We have her. We've also had one before this, but she was in the current batch, we have one right now. And she actually got a lot out of the program, in the sense that she developed a whole set of questions around looking at food systems. How does the rural connect to the urban via food, via employment, via migration? Like, these were some of the questions that she was looking at. And one of the projects that she worked on was looking at the APMC wholesale, marketing yard, and basically the kind of networks, negotiation, pricing, and these connections that were happening for those kinds of selling to happen. So absolutely, if you have that background, but you are interested in sort of understanding the urban connection, please do apply. The next question is, how much weightage is given to the portfolio? I can't share the details of the grading rubric about how much is given to each particular aspect. I can say this in qualitative terms, that the portfolio is an important component for us to understand what work you have done and what was your engagement on it. Right? So again, please put in the work in terms of what did you individually do as a part of, especially if it was a large project, what was your individual role in it, right? If you had a particular kind of a concept that you were trying to bring in through the design, make sure that portfolio speaks to that, right? Because we're just trying to understand how you think, how you analyze the world around you, how do you bring it into your design, how do you bring it into, thinking about how built form, how space needs to be, sort of arranged, designed, etc. It's from that perspective that we look at the portfolio. I hope that answers your question. So the next question is, I'm a structural engineer. May I know what areas will I be exposed to? So again, I will sort of point you in terms of what the program is about and what you're going to get out of the program. The details of the subjects, etc., are all there on the website. But I think that's actually not the way to kind of approach this. What I would ask you in return is that if you are a structural engineer, why do you want to do an urban fellowship? Is there a particular urban question that you have? Or is there something with your disciplinary background as a structural engineer, which is often at sort of a structured level, at a building level, at a particular sort of a project level? Are you interested in scales beyond that? Are you interested in sort of the ways in which these things connect to where they're located, how they're located, right? If you are, if you have an interest, an inclination, or some way of sort of not just doing sort of the traditional structural engineering kind of work, then apply to the program. Because this program is not, this program is meant to be an urban fellowship. So you need to kind of have a good reason as to why you're sort of applying to this program, right? And like I said, that if you're looking for like the individual names of the courses, etc., that's on the website. So please do take a look. I'll move on to the next question. I've done a BA in sociology and then an MA in mass communication. I now research and produce for long-form documentaries for television and digital platforms. I live in Old Delhi, and that's where my interest in urban areas arises from. Since I've not worked on urban themes in my career so far, am I eligible to apply? You should definitely apply. I don't know what are the topics on which you are doing research and producing long-form documentaries. But if there is the connection with sort of, the Old Delhi, like you kind of said that my interest in urban arises from Old Delhi. If that interest is something that you want to bring into your work, both into your research or in terms of how you are working on documentaries, then I think this program is an extremely good place to kind of explore that further. We have a very, very good team which is part of our media lab. Some of them are independent filmmakers. They produce a lot of media related work, which is sort of drawing from all of the urban work that IIHS does. So even as sort of a connect in terms of the actual hands-on, what does it mean, you will have sort of almost like a peer group to discuss those kinds of things with here at IIHS. You might have already heard about the Urban Lens Festival that IIHS hosts, which is our sort of film festival on urban topics, etc. And if you have seen, or you can look it up if you haven't, the range of films that are part of that will also give you a sense that we have, we would like to work with a very broad canvas of what the urban means. And then we actually think that the visual media is a very powerful way of, talking about the urban, to have an advocacy role in the urban, to tell stories, to tell narratives. It's a whole new method of sort of engaging with the urban. So I think that please do take a look at Urban Lens as well as some of our Media Lab's work. I think you would find it very interesting in this program. So moving on to the next question, is there a possibility of 100% fee waiver? So like I said, that we look at all the applications that come for scholarships on a case-to-case basis. And yes, in the past, we have given 100% fee waiver, but we have given it to the people who are who are truly sort of, absolutely require that kind of, because of the circumstances that come with, we've had people who come who've moved to the city at a particular stage in their lives, and they're coming to this program as well. We've had very, very interesting people. So 100% free waiver is usually actually meant for letting people who would otherwise not be able to make their way into a formal educational setup. Many of them are first generation learners. That is, they're the first in their family to ever have gone to a university level course. So we also get a lot of very, very good applicants from those kinds of backgrounds. And usually 100% fee waiver is directed at that profile of applicants, of the people who are selected. So yes, it is possible, but it is not something that, like I said, that we look at it on a case-to-case basis and look at, sort of balance it out with the kind of need that people have. The next question is, given that peer learning is an important aspect, is there a difference in the contribution that a fellow can give during the course according to their educational background? So this is actually a very interesting question. I don't know if you have had a chat with some of our previous fellows, but pretty much through the program, and it's actually kind of, we find this as faculty, we've sort of noticed this across the years, that in different times of the program, different people with different disciplinary backgrounds suddenly feel like, they're at the top of the world, and they're really sort of following, and they can, they start sort of, almost teaching their classmates about, where they come from. But that changes through the program. So at one point in the program, the sociologists and the economists will be doing really well. At another time, the architects and planners will be like, this is our home turf. There'll be another time when, someone from a law background or from a media background is like the person who's sort of teaching their classmates. So the contribution sort of rolls through the year. The program is sort of actually designed to kind of bring out different kind of disciplinary, we push you in different disciplinary modes and methods and content through the different parts of the program. So I doubt very much that if there is a kind of a disciplinary background which is yet like not contributed to peer-to-peer learning. So the next question is, what would the course curriculum exactly consist of? So let me just give a, I think I've already sort of talked about this, but let me give a little bit again, sort of go through it. The course usually is divided into three main parts. Okay, first is called the commons. The commons involves sort of 6 to 7 main sort of thematic areas, which may include sort of, identity, social identity, urban planning, sustainability issues, infrastructure, urban economy, but we teach it in sort of we co-teach it in an interdisciplinary sort of a way, where there are, a couple of modules that run together. And then along with that, people do practica, which is a field-based exercise, right? That's the commons term. Then we move on to the electives term. The commons term, everybody, the entire class takes together. Everybody sits together, all the classes taken together. Then we move on to the electives term. In the elective term, the class moves into different modules depending on their interest. There is a list of elective courses that we teach. At any given point in time, you have a choice, between 3 to 4 courses that are offered. You get to take one. You get 4 elective modules, so you get to take 4 courses through the elective thing. You also, at the same time, work on live projects, research projects, practice projects that are based at IIHS. And then once you finish the elective term, you move on to your internship term, which is the 2 months that you're placed at an organization, which is, sort of aligned with what you want to do post the program. So that's the broad structure. Along with this, there are additional layers, like, for example, skill labs, right, which range from sort of media to GIS to quant skills to research methods, a whole set of things like that. There are also exposure visits where we take you to cities that are not Bangalore. missing anything? No. So those are sort of the main elements that are there in the curriculum. If you're looking for course names that we teach, I've given you a sense of the commons already. The elective courses are all sort of mentioned on the website, so please do take a look. Could you perhaps, I'm moving on to the next question, could you perhaps explain what accommodation, hostels, food, etc. are provided for selected candidates? So yes, we completely take care of the accommodation for the selected students that make it to the batch. These are typically sort of managed property spaces, like the new variety of them that are coming up right now, like Zolo, Stay Aboard, like those kinds of managed spaces. They are typically sort of in one room. There'll be 2 students who will be sharing. It's like it has a bed, it has a study table, it'll have a wardrobe, like all of those kinds of things. Laundry is provided, it's free. Most of these places have like kind of a daily sort of a cleaning thing that they have. There's free Wi-Fi. So like it's so far students have just they're all sort of stay in the same place, which means that they work together. There is a lot of sort of bonding that happens, even after classes are done. And pretty much through every year, we've heard like very, very good things from our students about like how much sort of that accommodation made a difference. Yeah. Moving to the next question, I don't have industrial experience, but interested to work in urban development. Is there any chance for me to get in? So I'm not sure by what you mean. If you mean that experience in working in a sort of urban sector, but you're interested in urban development, yes, definitely. I mean, you should apply. We are also, like I said, that we're not always looking for sort of formal work experience. That's good. We definitely look at those. But if you have volunteered in different places, if you have been writing or researching on urban issues, if you have taken a role in the local neighborhood that you stay on certain kinds of initiatives, any of those kinds of things, we also look at those. So even if you don't have formal experience but have been involved in other ways, please tell us about that, and we will take a look at that in the application review process. The next question, I'm moving, how many number of works should you have in your portfolio? So again, there is no fixed number for this, really. There's no magic number that you have to have so much or so much this thing. We kind of basically look for quality rather than quantity. So in the projects that you have done, even if they are, in fact, we would actually recommend that people don't send us 100-page portfolios, right? Because it's completely meaningless. It's page after page after thing where every page looks like every other page that somebody else could have also produced. So much rather than sort of producing or giving us this sort of very hefty portfolio of everything, my suggestion would be curate it. Give us 4 or 5, or 6 projects that you're proud of, that you did something unique, that you added some value, that you thought about in sort of an innovative way, that you had something that you really wanted to translate in terms of that project. Give us those projects, give us those examples, give us a write-up in terms of like what that was about, what was your role in the project, why did you put in a particular way. So quality, we are not looking at some like sort of endless portfolio, but a few projects which have depth will have much more value. So sort of work backwards from that. The next question is it okay to express politically in the essays? Yeah, please go ahead. I mean, we live in a situation right now where if you want to be an urban practitioner, then you would have to deal with politics on a very daily basis. It is a life skill that is often not talked about or taught in a way. We encourage our students to, sort of not to be very sort of, to be mature enough to kind of say that this exists, and around this, how do we work around this? So yes, please go ahead and express, how does politics shape what you have done, what you think, what you would like to do going forward. So I'm going to go to the next question. I am Maitri Shah, in the field of architecture, planning for Masters in Urban Designing. Will this fellowship help me find clarification and deep knowledge for the same before jumping into Masters? So, like I said, that this fellowship is actually not meant as a stepping stone into the Masters process. Some people have gone on to do Masters. But really what we are trying to, the reason why we kind of came up with this curriculum and we came up with this program is because we don't have thoughtful practitioners and thoughtful researchers we feel like there is a gap there as far as urban research and urban practice goes. And this whole program is sort of meant to kind of push people to be more thoughtful about what it is that they do. So, most people have sort of walked away from this program saying that now they are sort of, thinking about more aspects in a more interdisciplinary sort of a way, which also actually means in more complex ways. They are working with more methods. They are, sort of learning to speak to a lot of different kinds of people through the program. So I feel like those are the strengths of the program, rather than sort of a narrow clarification of a particular topic or a particular specialization. That's not what we do in this program. So if that's what you're looking for, then this may not be a good fit, and then you should sort of consider moving into a master's that offers specialization in one thing, because that's not what we do here. It's much more about interdisciplinarity. And if you are confused about the larger frame, about why is it that we're doing what we're doing, why do we not, how do we prioritize various things, there are so many multiple aspects to think about. How do you still move forward when there is so much complexity in the world? If those are the kinds of clarifications that you're looking for, then this program would be a good fit. So, so kind of think about that. Move to the next question. A lot of the projects that you mentioned are mostly research projects which lie strictly in the urban planning domain. As an architect, is there an opportunity or scope to sort of work on projects that are design projects like prototyping urban solutions or applied research design projects? Yes, there have been many architects who have been part of this program, and most of them have sort of come in from a perspective where they are interested in looking at design, not just at sort of a building level, built form level kind of a thing, but in a more contextual sort of a way. And they're or to look beyond sort of the traditional kind of client profile and client brief that structures a lot of the architectural profession right now, right? Like, for example, if you're interested in sort of working with incremental low-income housing, which may not be formal, and your clients from that kind of a background give you a design brief that is not just about the space that they're occupying, but also about the constraints that they have about where they can store materials in front of the place where they occupy, because these are very, sort of small, congested locations. So you can't have endless cement to work with. You can't have endless bricks to work with. There are constraints, and that's part of your design brief. If these are things in architecture that you think are interesting and challenging, then there is a lot of scope here. And a lot of people with architecture backgrounds have come in and sort of worked with those kinds of things. But this is not a traditional architectural place. And again, like I responded to one of the people earlier, is that if you're looking at a specialization, if you're looking at a specific sort of a narrow disciplinary sort of specialization, then this is not the right fit for you. Moving on to the next question.
Okay, this is.
Oh, did I miss that one? There's one question: should all the works in your portfolio include urban design, urban planning related works? How do you think a person with just interest in urban planning without urban related works should apply? Apply with projects that you might have done research on or might have been volunteering on. But again, I want to kind of step back and sort of say that no, the work portfolio that a lot of people send us is about community work that they have done, sanitation projects that they have been involved with, community mobilizations or urban education programs that they have worked with, documentary films that they have made, some sort of, energy cell that they have designed which can solve a particular urban energy issue. There has been a whole range of work related samples that people have sent us, so this is by no means restricted to urban planning, urban design, those kinds of things. Like I said, the urban needs a lot of different people working towards different kinds of aspects and different kinds of solutions. And if your work speaks to any of that, if you've been working with a migrant community, teaching children around that, or any, I mean, I'm just sort of giving examples, drawing from how students previously have sent us, but all of that is absolutely relevant work experience, and we're looking for that kind of depth. People have sent us work that they've done with particular kind of dance forms that have been located in urban areas and have a long urban history. So we are very open to sort of working with all kinds of different dimensions of urban practice. So, please keep that in mind when you're sending your work profiles. I'm going to the next question. I'm residing in Bangalore. If selected, is it mandatory to stay in the accommodation which you give? No, it isn't mandatory. It's definitely recommended. But we have had people who have been from Bangalore who have decided to stay at home and do the program. After the program has been over, they have told us that, they have missed some part of, the life at as a part of the program and the peer-to-peer interactions. But from our side, we don't have any, we don't restrict you to stay in the accommodation itself. You can definitely stay at home while you're doing the program. The next question is there space for learning about gender-sensitive urban development during the fellowship? Yes, absolutely. It will come through in terms of projects, and it's going to be definitely one of the themes that you can develop through a lot of the course, through a lot of different courses that are being taught. So, for example, the course, the elective on mobility, would have a gender component to it. The course which is dealing with urban sanitation will have an aspect of gender to it in terms of the workers that are involved, the kinds of different issues that they face. The public health course will have gender related. We're doing research on, for example, the maternal and child health of domestic workers, and the kinds of, not only from a health perspective, but from a housing perspective, the kind of rental housing arrangements, the kind of mobility arrangements that they're working with. So there are many possibilities of working with gender-sensitive urban development from a course level, from a practical level, from a project level. So yes, definitely, if you have that interest, please do apply. So the next question is, what is the average age of fellows? Is someone with a master's and some work experience going to feel like an oddity? So broadly, definitely not. Like I said, people have to be under the age of 30. That's our cutoff. But typically what we've had is about 40% of the class has been, sort of under the age of 25. And then about 30 to 40% of the class, between the age of sort of, 25 to 27. And then another sort of 10 to 20%, which has been, 27 to 30. So it's usually a good mix. And different, even sort of the age mix brings something to the conversation. Some people speak from experience, some people speak from the interest and the, sort of their enthusiasm about sort of taking on a particular aspect. So everybody sort of brings different kind of things into the mix. But definitely, if you're under the age of 30, have a master's and some work experience, we have had many fellows with that kind of a background, and so not at all. It's not something that will feel like an oddity. I will move to the next question. The applications are assessed after the last date of application or first come first serve basis. We look at all the applications that come in until the cutoff, until the application is cut off. So I would recommend that you send it in early because that gives us a little bit more time. The ones that come on early, we assess in various tranches through the entire process. If you come in early, we usually have more time with the ones that come in early. People tend to leave it for the last minute, and then we have a whole rush at the end, and then we are sort of, we will definitely read your application, but if it is, part of this last minute surge, then of course, that also restricts the time that we have, the time that we can spend on each of the applications. So, every application that is sent before the cutoff date is read. That much I can assure you, but I would recommend send it in early. Think about the essays and send it in early rather than leaving it for that last minute. Okay, so we have run through all the questions that there are. We're also sort of coming to the end of the hour. So I'm basically going to sort of end by saying that, I look forward to the applications from most of you who have attended today. We also are going to have these webinars at least twice a week going forward on the Mondays and the Thursdays, right? At the same time between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. They are all going to be now focusing on specific topics. So I would recommend that if you have specific questions about one aspect or the other, please sign in, get information from all these webinars, ask your questions, but most importantly, start working on the applications and start working on the essays in the application. Make it your own voice, make it about things that you genuinely care about. Don't worry about the language. We don't care about how sophisticated the language is, but we do care about the quality of your thought process and your analytical, how do you analyze, how do you see the world? So the genuineness and the quality of that is actually what is going to determine, success in the admission process. So please take your time, do a couple of drafts, get a set of people to read through it before you submit. Don't do it hurriedly at the last moment. Don't let it's a fee-based program now, but if you yourself come from, like if this is a financial barrier and you're holding back because there is a fee, please don't. Like I said, we have a very robust scholarship program, and year after year we have had people who have been first generation learners, first in their families to kind of go to higher education, and we've been able to support them through the program. So please apply, don't let the fees hold you back, and I hope to see all of you, all of your applications in the next days. All right, take care, bye-bye.